All right, so something I'm glad that they addressed is that D2 is entirely too damn big because there's so much content. And when you start reading and getting into the meat and potatoes of the article, they were not only were they talking about how large the download is, especially for somebody who's brand new, who just got the game and they're going to start up from scratch. But not only are they talking about how large the game is, how much space it takes, but they were also talking about how large each update is. Damn, where was I going to go with that? Oh, and they were talking about how that was creating an issue with hard drive space. I don't know if you guys remember, maybe about a couple months ago, I ran into a situation where if I was going to have Destiny and then Call of Duty on the same PS4, I could only have maybe one more game because they were two monstrous games. So it started creating, you know, issues, whatever it is. So part of the solution that they're trying to provide us is to try and make their footprint a lot smaller. And the reason why that matters is that the larger something is, the more code it is, right? The more work it takes to manage something of a larger size. Everything is so big, in order to correct a lot of the issues that they're having in game requires an equally as big ass patch, right? So you're putting a big patch on top of a big game, but then that patch might and most often creates more errors, which means that they have to put another big patch on top of the other big patch in order to go on top of the big game. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you got two Big Macs on top of each other and you're trying to fit it into this little mouth. It's too much. It's just too much. Besides, it starts to limit what people can have on the hard drives, and that kind of pisses people off. So their solution to this is amusing to me, because they're crunching numbers. So not only are they looking at solutions to make D2 better based off of emotional content from players, but they're looking at hard numbers. And they're looking at events that people don't play. And the idea is that they're going to start getting rid of things that people aren't playing. Now, they didn't say get rid of. They called it the Destiny Vaults, right? DC Vault. Destiny Content Vaults, which I thought was kind of cute. A Destiny Content Vault. But they're essentially going to be removing pieces of the game out of the game so that the players, developers can focus on the pieces of the game that people are actively playing. At its base level, right? The understanding is they're going to get rid of content that people aren't playing. And there was something in here that they had that only 3%. And by 3%, it was like 0.03% of people actually play. Damn. I should have made a note, but I wanted to
shake my head to make sure I was looking sexy.
Ah, here it is right here. Here it is. Warmind's campaign represents only 0.3%. Only 0.3% of what was played. 0.3%. So not even a full percent, but because the expansion itself is so large, it takes up 5% of the total size. So I was like, oh, that's kind of nice, right? Like, I like those numbers because if they're focusing on the things that people actually do, the portion of the game that people actually play, then that means they could focus and improve the things that the players want them to improve. Like strike variation, for instance, strike rewards. So that's probably one of the things that I liked, because by reducing the size, it's going to reduce the amount of time that's necessary in order to make the improvements. And they're not going to be wasting time updating something that no one's playing anyway. And then each time they do a balance, that creates extra problems. So the patching speed, I believe we're going to see a positive impact by them being able to focus on what's relevant. So I assume and expect that the patching speed is going to increase because they're not going to be wasting time on things that we don't care about. So what they had alluded to in the article was that the content will not be available for new players once they start instituting the DCV, right? The vault. So the new players, like if they move the Warmind campaign, and there was one they were getting rid of, Osiris? Was it the Curse of Osiris? which was terrible. That's actually why I stopped playing D2, was the Curse of Osiris DLC. I was offended. But what they were saying...
I'm sorry, guys. I hate this song. I can't listen to this song. It's bothering me.
But what they were saying was that content is going to be removed, it's going to be placed in the vault, and the new players won't be able to experience that content until it gets pulled from the vault and is put back in the rotation. Now, the things that were important about that content, exotic quests, for instance, they're going to make those quest lines available if they were tied to specific events or content. However, the content itself will no longer be available once it's removed. So that's what they were alluding to. New players, brand new players to the scene, are only going to be able to play what's available at the time, which is part of why they were pushing so much for, you know, games as a live service, right? More control to the developer, less control to the gamer and what they consume or how they consume it. Yeah, so I don't know if I feel bad about that. I don't feel bad about them taking away game. I don't feel bad about them removing content that adds no value to the player base or to the game itself. So, for instance, if they never had Curse of Osiris, like if that entire thing was deleted and we never ever played Curse of Osiris, right? That DLC, you know what would happen to the story? Nothing. Nothing. Curse of Osiris added nothing to the story. At the end of Curse of Osiris, I did not sit back and say, man, I am so happy I played Curse of Osiris. At the end of it, for I think 5 minutes straight, I just stared at the screen, upset, confused. Upset and confused. You get what I'm saying? So, in terms of lore versus storytelling, if you play the game, right, you play all of the content, you still don't have a good understanding of what the game is about. So let me go back up here to point number 2. If I'm talking about story through gameplay versus lore, I'm going to go ahead and put under here as a sub bullet. I'm going to put Last of Us. And I'm also going to put Super Metroid, right? So here's the reason why I bring that up. If you play The Last of Us from beginning to end, you will know exactly what's going on with the story. You understand. Now, if you wanted to know more, then you can go read lore or canon or anything else. But if you don't consume any of that extra content, you know exactly what's going on in The Last of Us. Super Metroid. Super Metroid gives you just enough information for you to figure out what the hell is going on, right? And then through playing the game, you slowly begin to learn what is going on. But even with Super Metroid and the limited information they give you, they still give you information to know what is going on. So at the end of your gameplay, you understand what's going on in Super Metroid. Destiny. I've been playing Destiny since the beta. I have played all content, minus the raids, but I've only played Volta-Glass, Crota. I think there was something else that we went through some raids. I don't know. Siva. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, I've played since Destiny beta all the way up to, I think we just finished season 10. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I think we got all the way up to season 10. And I can say without a doubt, I really have no idea what the hell is going on in Destiny. No clue. No clue. Where do we come from? Why were we chosen? What are we doing? Does death really matter? The only death that really seemed to matter was Cayde. You know what I'm saying? And how that was handled. Like there's a lot that goes into it. It's not very clear from the gameplay itself. Now my lore experts out there, when we talk about this on stream or off stream or whatever, then they start schooling me up. We're like, oh yeah, but this is why, blah, blah, blah. And then they explain the relationship between, I think it was like, I don't know, somebody from the Taken King and this brother's sister and like, I don't know. They said a whole bunch of shit and I was like, I did not see that in the game anywhere. I don't know what you're talking about. So, but That's what I wanted to bring up when we're talking about the storytelling and the content. So if they're going to do this vault, and if they're going to be removing content, on one end, it's going to make it easier for them because there's less to maintain, which means they could put more energy in the stuff that makes sense, that people are playing. Two, I hope it'll... Sounds like a BuzzFeed video. It's messing up my mojo. But I hope that'll also have a direct impact on their storytelling, right? That they'll start taking into account that there are people out there that have never played Destiny or didn't get to play all of the content, and they're going to figure out ways to have those story beats matter without having to use the lore. But what I really think the truth is, and I might get some hate on this one, let me know if you guys agree, but what I think the truth is about Destiny is that no one really gives a shit about the story. No one cares. People don't play Destiny for the story. You play Destiny because it's a damn good game to play with your friends. That's what I'm saying. I might take some hate on that, but I think a majority of the people who play Destiny, no idea. They know the basic stuff from the storyline, and then they're just like, whatever, let's go do this raid, let's go do this, let's go do that. And that's why I refer back to point 2. There's a different perspective on the Destiny franchise. For those of us who only play the game, I'm that guy. I'm that guy, right? For those of us who only play the game and get our understanding of the Destiny universe from the story that we interact with via gameplay, and those of you out there who actually read the lore. So you, Devmani, Hariel, I think even Carlos, you guys read the lore, but I don't like doing that. All of the content should be in the game because that's what I'm trying to interact with. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't even know what the Ishtar Collective is. I don't know. Did we kill him? I don't know. But that's what I'm talking about, bro. I don't play D2 because of the story. I play it because it's a good game to play with friends. Which is another thing. Destiny is designed to punish you for being a loser. That's it. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. You don't have any friends? Don't play Destiny. Simple. You want high level gear? Make friends. That's what it is. It's pushing people out of their homes. You got to beat the raid to get high gear. Anyways, let me go ahead and back up. But so the reason why I was throwing that in though is that the story is important, and I say that as a passing comment because we were sold DLC based off of the fact that it would be having content that was necessary to better understand Destiny, right? I have all the expansions, bro. Except for Shadowkeep and Forsaken was gifted to me by Hariel, which is the only reason why I jumped back onto Destiny. Because like I said, I deleted it and I stopped playing it at Curse of Osiris because it hurt my feelings. But that also brings up a very good point. If I paid for the game and I paid for content, but now they're taking away that content and I no longer have access to it, what does that say about the rights, the purchasing rights of the player? I'm investing my $60, right? I bought it at 60. I'm investing $60. I'm giving you $60 for a specific amount of content. This is the trade-off. I give you money for content that you are promising me in exchange for the currency that I just gave you. But now, since we're in this always online, always live situation, that agreement no longer counts. I will give you $60. However, there is no longer a reason for them to offer the content I paid for if it doesn't suit their needs. And that is alarming. If we're just going to speak frankly about the situation, what the developer is essentially saying is that when you purchase the game, right? You purchase the game. For those of us who purchased the game, you purchased the opportunity to play the game. That's what you purchase. And all of this content that you had that was yours is no longer available because this is an always online game. Now, moving forward, it's going to be different because you have the free the game itself, the base game is going to be free, and then you're paying for the ability to enjoy seasonal content. So now I'm paying for the ability to play a game and not actually own anything, because the company can therefore take it away at any point. As I said again, or as I said earlier, that's very concerning. So there are a lot of people who are going to look past that and be like, oh, whatever, man, it's okay. You know, I'm giving the money and then I pay this and then that means they're going to give us better content, da 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 da. But what is the power? What power do you have and what are you getting for that return on investment for money? If you change the idea, the perspective, right? And we're talking about money matters here. If I'm changing the perspective and I'm no longer thinking that, hey, I'm going to be giving this money to a developer, and in turn, that developer is going to be giving me something tangible. If we no longer think of that, we are now looking at, we are paying for a service, right? We're paying for entertainment. And we start looking at it as a return on investment for entertainment value. And now these games have now become a consumable product. Like going out to dinner, you know what I'm saying? Going out for a date. That's a good way to look at it. Oh, thanks. Sometimes I'm just a little smarter than I look sometimes. What is up with my... Oh no, that's not green screen. What? Oh, that's this. I thought it was the green screen. Just as I said, the smarter than I look comment. My bad, guys. But yeah, so in the beginning, when Bungie was Bungie, right, and they created Halo, you purchased Halo and you got something in exchange for the money, right? Yo, I don't like these little kid beats. So you get something in exchange for that money, right? Whereas now with Destiny, the hard disk of Destiny that I have, D1, is not the game that you would play if you were to log back on. The hard disk of Destiny 2 is not the same game that you would play if you were to download it now. You know what I mean? What was a big issue in D1 where they sunset your one weapon? I think maybe they were trying to not do that. So they did cover that in the... Let me post the link. And this was a link that Greaves had put in the Discord channel, speaking primarily about D2. I think that's the right link. Should be. Make sure it brings up the same thing. Okay, yeah, so it's bringing up the same thing. So in the link, they did talk about that, where people invested all of this time and energy, got certain weapons, and then when you went from D1 to D2, boom, everything was over, right? Everything was erased. You had to start from scratch. And even during my gameplay, sometimes I get confused, right? And it's not because, you know, I'm a delicious old man. It's that sometimes they're bringing back weapons from D1 and I'm like, yo, I already have this weapon. And then I look at my inventory, I'm like, oh shit, no, I don't have it. You know, like, help me out, guys, here. I think Sleeper Stimulant was one of those. Where Outbreak Perfected, I believe it used to be called Outbreak Prime, right? Because that's what I was calling it at first. So they were talking about trying to allow us to continue the power fantasy moving forward, to add value to the time that you've invested and to continue moving it forward, and that it's better to put the effort into D2 as opposed to cutting everything off and creating a D3. Right, so I read that and I thought that was pretty nice from a PR perspective. But let me explain to you why that's bullshit. Okay, and this is where I'm going to, this is where point 3 and 4 merge together. Continuing Spanish smarter than another Destiny. It is smarter. It is smarter based off of the context that I have here at the top, and I'm going to explain why. Whenever you hey, what's going on? Decisive. Oh, Decisive from Mixer. What's going on? Welcome to the chat. Heartbreaking for all the players, and they even admit it was a mistake. So That is true. So I was having a difficult time thinking about how many games out there were able to carry on as they move forward, right? What's the word I'm trying to look at? What's the word I'm trying to look? Sequels? I think that's the phrase I'm looking for. There were very few games that allowed you to maintain the power fantasy that you started in the primary game and have it bleed over into the secondary game or any subsequent sequels, right? So there isn't a, what's the word I'm looking for? Status. There isn't a precedence, or there isn't a precedent for a game to carry on the power fantasy that you had from one game to the second game. Typically there is a beginning and then there's an end. Where the point got convoluted is that they're trying to be more of a World of Warcraft than what it turned out to be, which is Halo in space with a bald god that travels. So they call him the Traveler because he travels to bring immortality to people. Anyway, the point is, there isn't a precedent, right? In order for you to maintain that power fantasy going from 1 to 2. So when they shifted from D1 to D2 and the story ending and how they had destroyed a lot of what was happening, I expected that. Actually, that happening wasn't surprised at all. Exactly. That's what it. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say right there, was that Destiny was built on the idea that we would maintain that character all the way through, and then when they chopped it from D1 to D2, yes, that sucked, but it wasn't unexpected for me, because it's very rare to see a game maintain that energy going from 1 to 2 and keeping things the same with the same characters. However, what made it worse was that not only did you lose the character and everything that you had in D1, but they also did a major revamp on the gameplay mechanics and everything that made D1 great, right? Or made you happy with the franchise, the Destiny franchise. A lot of that was wiped rolling into D2 because of money, right? People don't make money off of the hardcore fans, right? That's really not where you make a lot of the money when we're talking about mass appeal. Where you get the mass appeal is from the casual fans, right? The more casual fans that you can get into a franchise, the more money you're gonna have. That's just how it goes, man. Anyway, the point is, we're talking about money, right? So they're trying to figure out the best way to keep the fan base happy, right? Keep the fan base happy that they have, while also making it presentable to bring in the casual fan so that they can continue to make that money. And not only that, they want to do it in a way that will cost them the least amount of money to continue moving forward, because point 4, they really don't have as much freedom as they did. Now, even though we were hating when they were on with Activision, being a part of Activision actually gave them more freedom than they have now because of reality, right? So when you're under Activision that has all of this money, right? So money is coming in from different places. So there's a certain levels of stability that Bungie had, which kind of allowed them to do a little bit more or less, right? So they took stability for less creative freedoms, right? And we saw that with what happened with the Destiny 1 storyline. Now Bungie is by themselves, right? So they have to worry about maintaining the servers, paying developers have families. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. So now they have to figure out and make sure that they're making decisions that will make them the most money, with requiring the least amount of work possible, increasing profits, right? Because profit margin is, if we speak frankly, gaming now is about money. Before, it was about adventure, creativity, seeing that what we can do, right? Pushing bounds. Now it's about money. Video games are corporate. Period. That's what it's really about, right? The indie scene is different. The indie scene, people are still out there being creative, trying to do new things, but everything is about money. You get what I'm saying? And that's where Destiny is right now. And they even talked about that too when they were talking about how much effort they were able to put into different things. No matter how upset we get, right? No matter how upset we get, no matter how beautifully they write what they have planned for the future, no matter how beautifully they write the reasons why they did what they did, they are constrained by money and the loss of freedom as a result of leaving Activision, and the loss of freedom because of the realities of having to make money to pay the people because the people have families, right? Why do I bring that up? Now, there were a couple streams where I would yell into the camera and I said, yo, Bungie, give us all of the D1 content. You could sell that at a $40 price point, right? It doesn't even need to be changed. You could have literally just imported the old shit into D2 and we would have paid money for that, right? Absolutely would have paid money for that. What's funny, and we even talked about it earlier, the first raid that they're going to bring back is Vault of Glass. That is the first raid that they're going to bring back from the D1 content. And they're going to be bringing in D1 strikes, right? There's a lot of stuff from D1 that's going to be filtering into D2. Why do I say, and why am I bringing this up? Why do I think it's genius? And why do I feel validated? Is because they were bringing back in old content that, one, has nostalgic value, two, is going to require less resources to implement, and three, presents, value on investment. So for us old heads, we're going to be like, yo, nostalgia, I haven't played this in a hot minute, but we're not really getting anything new. And to the people who just jumped into D2, they're going to be receiving new content that is new to them, but is old content, which means more profits. And the fact that they're going to be cycling it through, which is why, like, it's genius from a financial standpoint. What they are doing right now is genius, right? Because now that they shifted to the seasonal model, you have to pay to be a part of the season if you want to be involved in what's happening, because after the season is gone, that content is gone. You know what I'm saying? And if they're starting to attach to bring things out for the vault during specific seasons, they can use that as a way to sell more for those seasons and or whatever DLCs that they're going to be using and selling to us. You know what I'm saying? It's brilliant. Brilliant. Why give the gamers all of it when you can sell them some of it? Now, I don't know if that's me being jaded, but I'm just saying it's brilliant. Just being real. Am I upset with that? No. Well, I mean, yes, actually I am upset. I am upset about it, but that's because I've been playing from D1 into D2. But if we're talking about, am I upset with it now? I actually should put point number 5, which is consuming D2, not owning D2, right? Because that's also valid to this. Well, yeah, it is, right? And I can understand why at first glance when we're looking at it, it's super shady, right? And that's the emotional part of it. And that's why I wanted to get that out, because that's how I feel. When I'm looking at it, I'm like, look at these mother suckers right here. They're going to sell me old content that they may or may not polish up, right? Because there really wasn't a huge graphical change between D1 to D2. Being real. Let's be real, right? So they may not even polish up certain sections if they're going to go for a gritty aesthetic. They might do the Bloodborne, right? Where they're like, if we just make it dark and put a bunch of grays on it, then we don't have to make it look too beautiful. I'm not hating on Bloodborne. I'm just saying, yo, bro, there are many more colors in the rainbow. Just saying. But it's a dark and gritty game. Can I get some red blood? I want it to look fresh and get darker over time. But anyways, so at first I wanted to be upset, like, yo, what the, right? And get upset over it. But that's an emotional response. That is an emotional response. But if I'm thinking of it logically, and I'm no longer thinking about owning Destiny or owning a copy of Destiny, but rather consuming the game, right? If I'm thinking, well, if I spend $10, can somebody verify for me how long the the seasons are. Because this is what, $10 per season? It's what, yeah, season. So 110 days. Okay, so we'll go with 110 days, right? So a typical season is what, $10? And then if I... let's go ahead and divide that by 110 days, right? But let's not even say that you're going to play 110 days, right? Let's just say that, you know, you're not like me and you have a life, right? Right now, my life is take care of grandma and play video games. And then, well, obviously, and then spend time with my daughter, you know, when she makes time for me because she's too cool. So 104 days. Okay, so we'll go with 104, right? So it should be 104 days, right? But I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to go with, 52 days, right? Because we're going to say half of that time you're going to spend with a significant other, going to the gym, doing stuff like that, right? So you're not going to consistently play 104 days straight. But if we just say 52, right? Where's my... Yo, shout out to Microsoft making me not intelligent. So anyways, so if I'm going to pay $10, right? However, I'm going to divide that by my 52 days of gameplay. That's what, 19 cents a day. Let's go ahead and round that to 20 cents, right? So that's essentially what, 0.20? So we'll just say 20, what is that, 20 cents? Is my math good? Right? Does somebody want to check me on that? So if we start to think of it, right, as, hey, I'm typically just playing 20 cents a day to get me 3 hours worth of gameplay, is that so bad? I don't know. You get what I'm saying? I don't know. Is my math correct? If it's not, let me know. I'm not afraid to be wrong. I am not afraid to be wrong. Well, I rounded it up to 20 because it sound better. It sounded like a commercial. For only 20 cents a day, you too could play Destiny for 52 days. And support a struggling developer known as Bungie. I don't know. That's funny. So, where I'm trying to go with, right, which goes to point number 5. If we're talking about consuming versus owning, if I'm talking about owning content, then yeah, I absolutely would be pissed off playing, right? And if you start thinking about the game even more, then perspective will upset you very much, especially for those of us who paid full price for D1 plus all of the expansions, right? And then had to go to D2, so we paid another full price, you know, or not D2, I'm sorry, and then had to go to shifting from an older PS3 or Xbox 360 to go to a PS4. So I bought D1 twice, right? And then for those of us who went to D2, right? So now you got to purchase D2 and then all the expansions, right? So that alone, that's 5 purchases that I made, right? With the exception of, because I made 5 purchases and then Hariel hooked me up with 1, which would have turned out to have been 6 purchases for DLC content and all this other jazz. You know what I'm saying? So I paid all of that money. And what do I have to show for it right now? Content that I purchased is no longer available. Weapons that I purchased and earned through quests are no longer available. When you look at it that way, that absolutely sets off an emotional response. And it makes you want to, I don't know, rear naked choke a kitten. It gets you pretty upset. But if we look at it in terms of consuming content, is it really that bad? And I really thought about this a lot, is because on Monday, Sunday, well, Saturday and Sunday, we had terrible storms out here in Florida. And Sunday, we actually lost power. That was during the Calm and Fury podcast. Like in the middle of the podcast, boom, lost power. But then like we went without power for, I don't know, 4 hours or something to that effect. Okay, was it that long? 2 hours? I don't know. Anyway, so we went without power. But I definitely didn't have internet until like early Monday morning. The reason why that's important is because I was talking to my team about getting bounties done for D2 for when the season started again. However, without an internet connection, you cannot play D2. So what do you really own? So even though I have the disc that I paid for with money, I still can't play the game. So that's what I'm talking about. The whole ownership perspective needs to be, we have to think differently. What is this music? I can't listen to this music. It's upsetting me. Oh, this doesn't sound terrible. Let's listen to this. Is it worth the monetary value? I have always felt my time I invested in the game was not valued. That's what got me. I would agree with that. Actually, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. There is, I've said this many times, right? And I will continue to say it because this is how I judge many things in life. Return on investment. So when I'm talking about friendships, return on investments in terms of time. Like when I spend time with people, what do I get in return? How do I feel? Do those people make my life better, right? And then I will base my interaction with those people based off of that, right? So fortunately for me, I've been blessed that I have a really good group of people around me that I enjoy spending time with them because they add value to my life, whether it be from making me smarter, from helping me achieve my goals, for spending time with me, playing video games and not requiring me to, participate in some of the negative aspects of life. Like they allow me to escape, right? So there's some value that I get from the people in my life, and I'm very fortunate, right? A stream team. I love you guys. You guys, that's why success is a relative term, right? So compared to like a Dr. Disrespect, I'm not successful, but in my eyes, I'm very successful with what I do streaming, right? I have a good core of people who listen, we play games together, and we have a good time, right? But it's that return on investment. So you guys give me time, I give you high quality content, and then I get your feedback, which inspires me, and there you go. The problem that we all have with Bungie and Destiny is that many of us have surpassed the 1,000-hour mark. Over 1,000 hours of our life has been invested into a game where we don't feel like the developer cares. We're not looked at as people, we're looked at as a resource. By resource, I mean money and statistics, right? So that's why when they make these changes within how the game is built, made, played, we all feel pretty upset. And I have referred to the Destiny relationship as a toxic relationship, right? Because we all want to leave, but we don't. We end up coming back because we're like, damn, that gameplay is so good though. I mean, the story's shit. The developers don't really respect me. They don't really provide me a huge return on investment, but damn, that gameplay though. And then I have fun with my friends, like, man, I don't know. So we keep coming back, which goes back to point number 4, freedom. Bungie has the freedom to be douchebags because they have no competition. Destiny has no competition, okay? You can't put COD and Destiny on the same plate or even compare them because they're not the same. There is no game out there right now that can compete with Destiny. So as a result of them having no competition, they have the freedom to do whatever they want. And that's a fact. That's a fact. Let me see. Biggest pet peeve game is my time is a value. Sensating weapons right now. True. Wow. Is that like, wow. For me, right? Okay. Yo, it's being real, right? Because there's a lot that goes into it, right? So this is a little tangent, but there's a very specific reason why I chose the name Trindominus, right? It took me a very long time to figure out how I was going to rebrand, to try and rebrand what I was doing when I made the transition from Director of Awesome to Trindominus, right? So one, I wanted to have Trinity in the name because Trinity is the most important person in my life, period. So everything that I do is to get better as a person so that I can be better as a father to hopefully create, grow, lead a better child into the world because I want my daughter to be better than me, right? So that's Trinity. Dominus came from wanting to dominate the many aspects of what it is that makes us gamers. And what's interesting about Trinity in and of itself is that it's the three aspects being combined. And from the gamer's perspective, it's the mind, it's the body, and then it'll be our soul, right? And the way that I break that down into a gaming perspective is that if our mind is sharp, that's when we perform better at games. And we see this during some of my longer streams. The way that I'm able to play the game, Bloodborne, perfect example. When my energy levels are high in the beginning of the stream versus when they're low by the end of the stream, there's a significant dip in gameplay precision, right? And that happens to all of us, where sometimes we got to take a break, we have to eat, right? So that's the body portion. The mind also goes into it too, like what we're thinking, how we're getting better. So with Bloodborne, right, you have the opportunity to either feel like you are the worst gamer in the world and you shouldn't be breathing, or you can look at it and start breaking the game down, which is how I did in order to get better. I started paying attention to sound cues, to visual cues, to frame rates, to patterns. I started testing things. And then I started thinking outside of the box and paying attention to patterns that were a result of being proximity to me and then proximity to other article or other things in the environment, right? So that's the mind about it. And then when I say the spirit portion, the soul, that inner power inside, because all of us have other things that we have going on in our life, right? Some of us are married, right? We belong to someone or someone belongs to us, depending on how you are with your relationship, right? Some of us are parents. Some of us were military. Some of us take care of our grandparents. Some of us take care of our parents. Some of us have nothing. Like it's just us and video games. So in order to just, when people try to just say, oh, I'm a gamer, and they only look at one specific thing, I think that greatly undervalues the player, the developer, and the content that connects us. Now, I went on this whole rant, right? This whole backstory that many of you probably have already heard or don't give a shit about, but I need that to validate the next point, which is why we respond so emotionally to D2 is because many of us are invested into the game, right? We invested our life. We want to know what's going on. We love Cade. We love the universe. We want to know what's going on in the universe. We had triumphs. Some of us can remember exactly where we were when we played the beta. We can remember where we were when we defeated our first raid, or when we beat our first boss when we were severely underleveled, or when we helped somebody and we power leveled them through the game, right? So there's this human aspect to it. And video games have the ability to touch all three, right? A good video game can touch all three of the aspects of life that I just explained, right? So, and I bring this up to bring up the contradiction of going back to point 2, talking about story versus gameplay. When I played Last of Us, now whatever. I get a little embarrassed. I get a little embarrassed talking about it, but I'm gonna, whatever. It happens, right? I'm playing it, and the story hit me so hard that I cried. Man, I cried on stream. I cried. Like, it was ugly. Like I get so embarrassed just thinking about it, but thinking about how that story impacted me, right? Even now thinking about it, I could feel the remnants of that emotion, but it impacted me, one, on a physical sense, right? Because it actually elicited a physical response, right? Two, on an intellectual level. So now I'm looking at this story, I'm starting to identify it, and I'm starting to pay attention to a lot of things that are happening within the story and the gameplay, because the gameplay and the story come together, right? And then the soul, if you will. As a result of the philosophy in the game, it actually started making me ask questions about how I would react as a father in that situation, as a man in that situation, as a jaded survivor of a pandemic in that situation. One game hit all three of those aspects of a gamer, to include great gameplay, you know what I'm saying? Let's go back to Destiny. So here we are with Destiny, and we're having these emotional responses. However, when we react emotionally to any point in Destiny, and then later on they remove that content, or they don't even talk about that story, they don't finish the story, they make us feel used, abused. We feel stupid. And we start to ask ourselves, why did I invest that time, energy, emotion into something that in the end doesn't matter? Just like a bad relationship that you might think, right? Yo, bro, why was I with this person? Because in the end, it doesn't matter. Her dream became my dream. We worked together, and now she's living her dream, and I don't got shit. You know what I'm saying? That's how it feels with Destiny. Bungie talked about this 10-year plan. I played the beta. I was so excited. Oh my God, I can't imagine. 1,000 hours later, I feel stupid because I could have learned to play the guitar and be one of the best guitar players on the world with 1,000 hours of consistent guitar play. I could have learned 4 languages and spoke 4 different languages fluently in that same 1,000 hours. But no, I played Destiny and I cultivated this character and I learned this story. Only in the end, by the end of D2 Season 10, to realize that all of it doesn't mean shit. That's what I'm talking about. So this is what Bungie has to work with. Bungie needs people like me working there who will look at them and be like, listen here, Tom, Dick, Harry, Jennifer, LaQuisha, whatever your dev's name is, don't be a douche, okay? We all know you want money. We all know you want to make more money due to less work. But what we all need to be on the same page is that I'm going to invest in you, and I expect you to invest in me. And when you invest in me, I invest in you, and we create synergy. Can I get an amen? That's what they need. Destiny should be one of the greatest video games that has ever been made. One of the greatest video games ever made. And the fact that it is not is disappointing and insulting to all of us who have given over 1,000 hours of our life to a game that really doesn't matter. Crazy. Anyway, I digress. Let's go back over here to here because there were some numbers. They did a bunch of number crunching that I thought was incredible. That I did not even think about. That when I saw these numbers, blew my mind. Let me see. Rage 2.0 helps with the mind and body and my wallet. They never finish the story. Well, that's because they don't have time to explain why they don't have time to explain. Yeah, but it's hard to piece together the Destiny story because they took it. You can tell from the design that they took the story very serious, but when it was chopped up, it now comes across as what's the word I'm looking for, guys? Because I know some of you out there are smarter than me. When you take something so serious, but it is so silly, but you're taking it so serious, and people clown you for that. I don't know. There's a word for that. Like when a movie takes itself too serious, but it doesn't have the themes necessary in order to be serious. I know, ridiculous, but there's a word for that, and I can't think of it. But that's where Destiny is right now. They had this deep story that was chopped up, doesn't make sense, And it's like they're trying to build on something that's deep. That's not deep. And it's just weird. I don't know, there's a word for that. BuzzFeed. The Stranger Thing is coming back with Beyond Light expansion. And that's the girl from D1, right? Because that's what I was assumed, that was the D1 chick. Is that offensive? Can I say chick? Because when I saw her walk up in the trailer, I was like, hey, no time to explain. Yeah, because I saw the trailer and I was like, no time to explain. I don't remember her name. I don't remember her purpose. I just remember that dumbass line. Because they completely explained why there was no story with a single line that took away from everything. All right. Numbers. Ooh, this is a good song. All right, so let's get into some numbers here, right? When I keep talking about money matters. Now, this is something I did not know, and I'm glad that that you put this in the chat, because I went back and I read it and it blew my mind. So there are 9 destinations. 9 destinations, right? 9 planets to go through. Now, we're not going to talk about, I mean, we possibly could. We're just going to accept the fact that there are 9 planets. Now, some of those planets are more substantial than others, like Titan's a waste of space, but the point is, there are 9, right? So there are 9 destinations, 40 story missions. Curse of Osiris are trash, but there are 40 story missions, 52 adventures that give you shit for rewards, 42 lost sectors that give you shit for rewards, 17 strikes. I did not know there were that many strikes, because whenever we do the strike playlist, I swear there's only 3 that they cycle through. 31 PvP maps, and I swear there's only 4 that you play. 12 one-off special activities, like the Menage a Trois, aka Menagerie, and 0 Hour, which is ridiculous in how they designed it, but whatever. 7 raids, 6 gambit areas, 3 dungeons, and many quests that are filled to the brim with a couple patrols, because all the patrols are like, whatever, they're the same. I think there's like only 5 variations of patrols. Public events, and of course the thousands of associated rewards. Now, we can argue all day as to whether or not there's value in those numbers, right? We can argue that. I'm on the line that says a majority of those numbers are just there to be used as numbers because numbers are cool to see. But honestly, a lot of the stuff, the content that they're putting here to validate what they have, is worthless. But the point that the reason why it's important though is that because that all represents space, that all represents balancing, and that all represents more work. So anytime they add a patch, which Devmani was talking about earlier, they add a patch, that patch has to go across all of this shit. All of it. So then I was like, ooh, that's wild. That's right, Mazzy Rip. That's the phrase I'm looking at. These numbers are deceptive. They are deceptive. So when they were talking about getting rid of the things that people don't play in favor of bringing back the things that people do play, I'm on board with that. And I'm only on board with that as long as I remember point number 5, which is that I'm simply consuming Destiny content. I'm not actually paying to own anything from Destiny. That's a very clear difference. I own Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I am merely paying to experience Destiny 2. Curating the vault. That's a nice phrase. Curating the vaults. And the article is filled with words that make everything sound great. The PR person did a fantastic job on this. But I spent 20 years in the military, so I'm able to see past the fluff. All right. Cosmodrome. That's fun. I don't know why the Cosmodrome wasn't back in here anyway, because I was a part of it, but whatever. What do I know? And then bringing back the Vault of Glass, I think, was a fantastic job. A fantastic idea. that I've been talking about for years, but it was fantastic to bring back Vault of Glass because that is the most people's favorite raid. And I think it has to do with the fact that it was the very first raid in D1. So there's going to be a lot of nostalgia factor into it. And if they bring it back without changing any of the mechanics, if they just bring it back at the way that it was at the end of D1, you can throw it right into the rotation and it's going to be successful. Whenever I get upset with a game, right, I think of Young Angel, right? I know that you guys look at me now and you're like, yo, look at this caramel brown delicious glisten on the screen who's incredibly entertaining with an above par beard that is acceptable with the correct darkening of contrast. I know you're looking at me with being impressed, but I wasn't always this, what is the word? Amazing. When I get upset at games, I think of young, awkward, smelly Angel who didn't, whose mom didn't have a lot of money to be spending on video games and DLC and all that other jazz, right? If I was able to get a video game, I had that video game and that was it. I played that game for months, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to think from the perspective of young Angel looking at playing Destiny now. Is $10 every 110 days or 104 days, is that palatable? I think so, right? Spending $40 on top of $10 that I'm spending, like, is that palatable? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? So that's where my discontent comes from oftentimes. Debonair? Well, thank you. I am kind of debonair from time to time.